Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. I am Shogun. With me today is Babushka. She's going to be sharing her interesting and unique life story about growing up as a white young Muslim female in America, leaving the faith, and other things related to her experiences. Before we get into that, though, we are the Roundtable Discord server. You can find us by Googling Roundtable Discord. You can find us through Politics or Conspiracy on Discord. We also have Instagram, Twitter, BitChute, YouTube, a web store, and much more. So check out all of that, please. That being said, welcome, Babushka. Thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to this. So you and I obviously have talked quite a lot in the past, and I know some of the details of your background, but not much, to be honest. So I'll be learning a lot as well. So I guess we should just start with, where were you born? Just to set the scene here.
Well, I was born in Central Florida, in a small town, relatively.
Okay, yeah. So you're born in Florida, and since this is sort of the basis of the story, what was your first? Well, actually, what was your parents' religious orientation, if they had one?
You mean like religious backgrounds, or?
Yeah, like were your mother or your father religious themselves, and if so, in what way?
Well, so my mother, growing up, she was, she considered herself as a Christian, but she didn't really practice it that much. And my father was an atheist.
Right. And so at what age and in what circumstance did you first encounter Islam?
Well, I encountered it at a pretty young age. When I was going to elementary school, like around 11, 12. I didn't convert until I was 12, but, I brushed up on my knowledge before doing it.
So you said you converted when you were 12 to Islam?
Yes, I said the Shahada at 12.
I didn't hear you if you said something there.
I said the Shahada at 12.
12.
Yeah.
Right. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Shahada is the Muslim prayer, which when you say it makes you convert to Islam, or it is the prayer that makes you a Muslim, essentially. So what was the circumstance of you saying the Shahada, and why did you choose to do so?
Well, when I was a child, my parents weren't really there. My parents were going through a divorce at the time. And my family friends, who I consider family, they kind of took me in and, they showed me the way, I guess,
Okay. So you decided that you were going to embrace Islam, say the Shahada at 12, because you had some friends who had kind of introduced you to it, or some family.
Yeah, I always grew up with Muslims, and I saw how much happier they were, and I always had an appreciation for the religion, and at the time, I guess I needed some guidance, because my parents weren't really there. So
Right. So can you tell us anything about like what changed for you when you became a Muslim? Like, how did your life change? What did you start doing or stop doing? How did that actually manifest in your life?
Well, honestly, when I was a Muslim, I, abstained from like really, I guess, what they considered degenerate, drugs, alcohol, and sex, and even music and the television. I stayed away from all of it. And
So it's sort of a pure, clean kind of lifestyle, and you kind of stayed apart from civilized society in general. So I know that you experienced some, well, on the one hand, you experienced some discrimination from your community, and on the other hand, you experienced some abuse, frankly, from your family. I know these are rather personal things to talk about, so it's completely up to you what you want to talk about. But can you tell me about the discrimination, or you said there was some people in your community who kind of persecuted you because of being a Muslim?
Yeah, I was very ostracized when I had to wear the hijab and everything, and I was kind of ostracized because in my town there's a lot of Trump supporters and conservatives and Christians, and a lot of them really did not like me, even though I never had any interactions with them. A, a lot of them, for some reason, I guess, really disliked me, mostly because I wore the hijab, and I got a lot of comments that were really, really offensive towards me, like when I was a child, about not me being white, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on the podcast, but I had rednecks call me like raghead and like a muzzy and a bunch of other really nasty things. But yeah, so that wasn't too great. I also had some rednecks who wanted to physically attack me as well and rip off my hijab, apparently. I was bullied a lot, even by my teachers as well. And it was really hard for me because not only did I face discrimination at school, but I, faced it at home as well with my father. My father was very physically abusive and very emotionally abusive as well. And it was just really hard to deal with as a child. You're like this 12, 13-year-old kid, and you're not being accepted at home and you're not being accepted at school, and it was a nightmare.
That does sound difficult. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to go through that. And even more difficult, I would imagine, is what you described regarding how your father responded to you becoming a Muslim. So again, totally up to you what you want to say or share about it, but how did your family respond to you converting to Islam?
My mom was very supportive of it, actually. Like she she kind of helped me get into it. She introduced me to more like Muslims, and would drive me to the mosque and help me celebrate Ramadan and Eid. My mom was very, very supportive. However, my dad, on the other hand, was not. At the age of 14, my father told me to get out of the house and to never come back. He was extremely livid after I told him that I was Muslim. I didn't like outright tell him that I was at first, because I kind of just wanted to ease him into like finding out rather than just bluntly telling him. At times, my father, when he would notice I wouldn't eat pork, he kind of caught on, or whenever I was like, reading the Quran or listening to nasheeds, for example, my father would, for instance, with the whole pork thing, my father would force feed me pork and would let his friends also physically abuse me as well, just for the fact that I was Muslim. My father would sit me down in front of the computer and show me all of these anti-Islamic videos and what have you. And I wasn't allowed to get up until I, basically said, "Oh, I'm not a Muslim anymore," and he would, through all of this, like, it feels weird saying torture, but having him, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah.
I mean, you described before being, forced to sit and watch anti-Muslim movies, not being allowed to get up, and other things that, again, I won't say on your behalf, but so that must have been difficult. So I guess the question then becomes, how long did you remain a Muslim?
Well, I remained a Muslim up until I was 16. I mean, technically, I'm still considered a Muslim, I guess, but I stopped practicing at 16.
Okay. And why did you decide to stop practicing?
There were a lot of different factors. My father, for one, like, I wanted to have a relationship with my father, which was a total mistake, even though he treated me so terribly. I was also, as you know, as I said, facing a lot of discrimination at school, and I just didn't want to keep dealing with it because my soul was just broken at that point. It was all good for a while, and then it was just like reality really hit me, and it was really hard, and I was dealing with a lot of spiritual issues as well, trying to find my place in the world and figure out, what's what. But it was that, and I was dating a boy who was my first ever love. First love. He unfortunately was a Catholic, and he was very far right, and he couldn't accept that I was a Muslim. One of the biggest no-nos in Islam is dating someone who isn't a Muslim if you're a female. So I kind of already messed up at that point, but I was so love struck with this boy. He told me, like, I really wanted to marry him. I had plans on marrying him. He was the first person I really lost my virginity to. And he wouldn't accept me. He told me that if I remain a Muslim, he won't marry me. And that really broke my heart. And I was torn between the two decisions. And I was willing to give up my religion for this boy, which also was a mistake. But yeah.
So we'll open it up to audience questions and participation pretty soon, but I'm going to continue the interview for a few more questions. So how did your life change after you left Islam?
Oh, it went so downhill. It went so downhill. I thought my life was bad before that. It got so much worse right after I left. I went through a lot with that boy. As I said, I had plans on marrying him and everything. And lo and behold, he cheated on me a ton, and it crushed my soul as well. And I turned to drugs. I lied and I cheated, and I did the worst imaginable things. I became a complete degenerate right after. Yeah.
And so that brings us to now, in a sense, in that you no longer practice any religion per se. And I know you've said you sometimes feel like called to return to Islam. Is that the case? Do you sometimes consider going back to being a Muslim?
I do, but at the same time, I always have that thought in the back of my head that even if I do go back, a lot of the things that I've done were so unacceptable and just so terrible that God could never forgive me for what I've done. And I know that's a bit silly, but it's more of I don't know how to describe it. I feel so guilty that I don't want to go back. And I feel like even if I do, I'll be judged by other people. And I shouldn't even really worry about being judged by other people, because people do judge me anyway. But I don't know. I'm just kind of stuck in that little box, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I have to reply to that. Obviously, I'm a Christian, but from both a Christian or a Muslim perspective, nothing you've done is unforgivable, and God is forgiving. And in the Quran, it says again and again that Allah is the merciful, the oft returning to mercy, the compassionate, et cetera, et cetera. So I can promise you, Babushka, you're not as bad an egg as you might think you are, and you're certainly not beyond God's forgiveness from either point of view. But that being said, I want to ask also, what is it that attracts you about Islam but doesn't attract you about Christianity, for example, or perhaps some other religion? Because I know that, talking to you, you seem to have a pretty negative view of Christianity. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But what is it about Islam that you find compelling in Christianity that you find uncompelling?
I guess the traditional aspects of it, it's a very clean religion as well. They care a lot about hygiene, and they care about, what they put into their bodies. And I like the theology behind all of it. I think it's a very, very beautiful religion. And I don't hate or have really a strong negative view of Christianity. It's more like my views on Protestantism, specifically like, Southern Baptist, or really American I can't even say Protestantism as a whole. Um, that I have a very negative opinion on it, but if somebody chooses to go that way, then who am I to really say like what's right and what's wrong about it? But I don't know, something has always really attracted me to Islam ever since I was a little kid. Hearing people recite the Quran and the call of prayer and everything, and the history of it, it's that I guess that's kind of what just drew me in.
Yeah, makes sense. So thank you very much. And I have plenty more questions, but I want to open it up for the audience. If anyone else wants to make a comment or ask a question, again, just remember, got to be respectful. And also a reminder, this is an interview, not a debate podcast. So you can ask questions, make comments. Does anyone have a question or a comment they'd like to?
Yeah, I do. Did you ever see any favors done, as it were? Because you said discrimination from your own group, as it were. But did you ever see any other side of the coin?
You mean like people favoring like Christians over me, or what do you
Well,
mean?
I guess because you didn't look brown necessarily, but did you get any? What's the term?
Well,
Benefits from others, like they were less judgmental or more. I don't know what I'm trying to say right
yeah,
now.
I got what you mean. Actually, to be honest, no. Like I always think in the back of my head, like, I wonder how much worse it would have been if I was Middle Eastern, but what I faced was pretty bad. I think a lot of people felt almost repulsed in a way because I was white, and I think they had a very big issue with that because I was somewhat of a traitor in their eyes. I don't even know how that works, but yeah,
Did
I
they ever
wouldn't
try
say
to circumcise you?
no, female mutilation or genital mutilation is not really a thing in Islam.
Okay, that never came up then, is what I mean. Though. Like,
Well, I will say one thing: female genital mutilation, unfortunately, is a thing in Islam in some cases, but it's
that's
not.
why
It's
I
not fun. It's not fundamental to religion. It should not be part of Islam. But there are some hadith in which Muhammad approves of it, and that is part of the reason why it is practiced by many Muslims, unfortunately.
I
But
would
there
like to
are
see
also
that.
there are also Christians that practice it as well, and other people. So sorry.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I always saw it as a cultural thing rather than a, Islam thing. But I feel free to send me those hadiths because I really would like to take a look at them.
Yeah, I will. But aside from that, NSA also reminded me of a question I forgot to ask, which was we talked about the discrimination you felt from white people in your culture who didn't approve of you being a Muslim. Was there any form of discrimination or different treatment, or positive or negative, from the Muslim community, given that you were white and presumably there wasn't that many white Muslims in your community, I would assume?
Sometimes it was mixed, and actually, funny enough, there were white Muslims in my community. This very nice Polish woman that I was friends with her son. Her children were half Polish, half Palestinian, but this woman was the kindest woman I've ever met. I mean, hell, she wanted me to marry her son, but no, she was very sweet and very supportive. But from the rest of like the other Middle Eastern Muslims, it was always kind of mixed. I would have a lot of, I guess, judgment from some Muslims because I was white and not so much because I was Muslim. But overall, a lot of the Muslims were very supportive, were very happy, and were very welcoming. And by the way, the Middle Easterners that weren't accepting me, they were mostly my age. They were like teenagers. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really count them as, I guess, I don't know, being adults of
here's
this.
one that's here's one that's a little like not odd, but it's curious from like an intelligence standpoint. Did you ever get asked, or did you have any involvement in anybody that was investigating any kind of radicalization concepts within that community?
No, actually, because a lot of the Muslims, as far as I know, were, not actual terrorists. But
Well,
I
no, I know
did.
that, but like not any like they weren't any that were like because radicalization doesn't have to be a terrorist concept. It could just mean that they are being turned into I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. No, I never noticed any of that, but oh man, I lost my train of thought again. Damn it. Hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to think.
Well, you're saying the answer to NSA's question is essentially no. So you never encountered that, what he's describing, radicalization.
You didn't get any hit ups online and we're like, hey, Muslim girl, do you want to la 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 learn how to da da da? Like,
well, no, but I had a lot of people suggest, like when I was in high school, for example, I was in the JROTC program because I wanted to join the army and take my ASVAB, but I had a lot of people speculate that I was a radical Muslim, and I wasn't. I wasn't even close to being one. That was pretty interesting.
So
under what conditions would you because I'm quite interested, and I would want for anybody, I would only want happiness to come upon them and wisdom. So my greater question is, what terms would you have to be under to go back to Islam itself, or be a Muslim, or be a practicing Muslim once again?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure. Like, if I decide to go back to Islam, I guess like I wouldn't have to say the Shahada again because I've already said it. I guess I would just literally have to abstain from alcohol, drugs, sex, and all that other stuff. Also, sorry, my cat's making a bunch of noise. But yeah, no, I think I would just have to do that and, maybe talk to an imam, but.
So I have a question for you as well, Babushka. This is sort of the core question. It's a personal soul question for you. Do you actually truly believe in Islam? In other words, do you truly believe that there is Allah and that Allah is God and that the Quran is the testament of Muhammad from Archangel Gabriel through Muhammad? I'm not asking, do you find Islam attractive, or were you happier under Islam, or do you know nice Muslim people? But in your heart of hearts, do you believe that this whole narrative is actually true?
To be honest, it's a little 50-50. In a way, I do, but I know that maybe it's not the right religion, maybe there's some other religion that's correct and I just don't know. But the thing is, I'm not too worried about it, right? I have that fear that I might go to hell and pay the price, but I'm not really worried about it. I would rather take those, morals and ethics from Islam and practice it in my everyday life without being religious.
Well, and I also point out that even if you were not to be able to abstain from alcohol or sex or drugs or whatever, such as also, in my situation, basically, that doesn't mean you couldn't still pray, right? So you could still pray. You could, if you wanted, you could still pray the Muslim way, put your head to the ground, bow down. You could still read the Quran. You could still have a relationship with God. I think the problem right now is you feel guilty about your past. And again, I don't know what you feel guilty about, but everybody's got, skeletons in their closet. And in
Shogun wouldn't be able to blow cocaine into your butthole, though.
Well, oh my God.
We're not going to talk about that. But what was I going to say? So in Christianity, there's a concept that one of the worst things that can happen is for you to feel that you are beyond salvation, because the only way that you can actually be beyond salvation is to not accept salvation. And the only reason you wouldn't accept salvation is because you feel that you can't be saved. So you're stuck in a catch-22, right? So this is just me talking to you on a personal level. You have to forgive yourself for your past. And you also have to believe that God forgives you for your past. And you should, again, this is a Christian point of view, but you should confess and repent your sins to God. Just tell him what you did in prayer that you think was wrong and that you feel bad for, and he will forgive you, right? And that's true whether you're a Muslim or whether you're a Christian. Both believe in repentance, both believe in forgiveness and a forgiving God. And I don't know if you believe in God or not in your heart of hearts, but I don't think you should think you're some evil person that God would condemn to hell. And I definitely don't make it a self-fulfilling prophecy where you turn away from God because you feel that you're unworthy of God. Because that's a mistake, I've made, other people make as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of strange. I guess I do technically believe in a God. I'm just not particularly sure which one it is. If I were to go back to religion, it would definitely I would go back to Islam, but yeah.
Well, so that's an interesting question. But, you know, at least Muslims and Christians do believe that Allah and Jehovah are the same God, right? It's actually the same God. So, but regardless, I guess, does anyone else have any questions or comments in the audience?
Yeah, I have one. Have you ever considered converting to Christianity? If you have, why? And if you have, why not?
Well, technically, I was born as a Christian. I never got a baptism, but I've been to churches. I've been to the Catholic churches. I've been to a lot of masses. I've been to, the Southern Baptist, whatever you call them. What's the word for it? But you get what I mean. I've been to the Southern Baptist Church. I've been to the Methodist one. I've listened to everything they all have to say. I've looked into the theology, but to be honest, in my heart, I don't feel like Christianity is necessarily correct. It's just a feeling that I have, and you know what? Like I said, there's good aspects of the religion, but personally, I don't think that Jesus is the Son of God. I don't think, this Jewish man, this Jewish carpenter could be a son of God. And of course, he's a prophet in Islam, but, we don't believe he's the Son of God.
I will point. You're correct that Muslims do not believe that he's the Son of God, but it's also true that he's more than a prophet in Islam. So in Islam, Jesus, they call Isa, it's actually seen as the Messiah, right? So they don't see him as the Son of God, but they do see him as the Messiah, which means Savior, and basically as Christ. So he is very special in Islam, even above all the other prophets.
Not necessarily. I don't think he's above all the other prophets. I think he's just a prophet. But
he is considered the Messiah in Islam. I've confirmed this. Above all prophets, except perhaps Muhammad, I would say. But
agree to disagree.
Well, yeah, I may be incorrect, but I can definitely provide sources that he's considered the Messiah, whatever that means to you or to Islam.
When I was in Islam, we never really spoke a lot about Jesus. He would come up here and there, but yeah, I just don't think very much of him. In Islam, he's a prophet, and that's that.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'm wondering what else to ask. Is there any other misconceptions about Islam you feel like people have that you'd like to clarify, or is there a message you'd like people to hear?
Yeah, I'd like to clear up that a lot of people think that Muslims are just these nasty people who are like rapists and terrorists and this and that. It's such a horrible misconception because, granted, you do have those types of people within, the religion, but you have them in Christianity and all these other religions as well. The majority of Muslims I've met, which has been a lot, they're all very, very nice people. They just want to live like normal people. I mean, or at least somewhat normal. They're not out to get anybody. They're not out trying to convert, non-believers and this and that and chop their heads off. I feel like that is just a horrible misconception that is, pushed by a lot of Americans or conservative Americans. Yeah, that's really the only misconception.
Yeah, thank you. And I certainly agree with all of that. And I mean, I've known many Muslims in my life. I've worked with Muslims. I've trained with Muslims. And every single one of them has been a wonderful person. I've never in my entire life had a bad encounter or experience with a Muslim. And again, yeah, I've worked with multiple ones for multiple years. And I was just going to say my first ever martial arts coach of significance, shout out to Shireen Razak, Egyptian Olympian medalist and Muslim, probably the most influential, positive influence in my entire life. So I owe a lot to Muslim people, actually. Just to agree with.
I mean, a lot of my, I guess, extended family, they're like family friends. But when I first met them, I swear it, they were so welcoming. They were so much kinder than my own family, and I felt so at home with them. And my uncle, he would have given the shirt off of his back to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're non-Muslim or Muslim. He was a very kind man. He is a very kind man. He's still alive today. I don't know why I'm saying was, but he was like a father to me in a sense. And his wife was a beautiful woman, very kind soul. And his little daughter is the cutest little child I've ever seen. I swear, like, all kids are cute, right? Or most of them. But this child was just so fucking precious. And, I really strive to be like my uncle and my aunt. Speaking of which, his wife was a white Muslim as well who converted. She had the same Islamic name as me. Shout out to Fatma. But yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, and I really appreciate it. It was really interesting, and we don't have to stop the podcast now. As your friend, and I'm kind of conflicted because I feel like it would be better for you to return to Islam, right? Obviously, the way things are going now for both of us, whatever conditions, whatever. The point is, it sounds like you were happier and healthier under Islam, and I can hear in your voice and what you're saying that part of you wants to return to it. And I know that religion can be a really positive thing for people. So even though I am not a Muslim and actually don't agree with Islam on many points, kind of think you should go back to being a Muslim. I think it'd be a step in the right direction, but obviously that's your own personal point of view. And from another personal point of view, I really hope you don't do that. So catch 22.
I mean, at the moment I have a good friend who's trying to convert me to Orthodox Judaism, but I'm looking into that. I don't know if I'm going to convert or not. I'm gonna look more into it, but to be honest, yeah, if I ever do return to Islam, I'm gonna practice it the way it should be practiced, and try to at least bring my kids into it, so they have a good set of morals and traditions and what have you. But yeah.
If you were to convert back to Islam or become Muslim, then you would not be able to marry a Christian man, right? You'd have to marry a Muslim man.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate truth of it, or the unfortunate reality. But who knows? You know what? Maybe I'll find a way to be not such a degenerate, without religion.
Well, absolutely, or with a different religion, or with a personal understanding of spirituality, right? You can just take the concepts, right? So you got this religion, says there's a God, he's called Allah. Okay, take the Allah out of it, just call him God. Right, you got the Quran, it's got a lot of moral teachings. Take the Quran out of it, just keep the moral teachings. You got prayer. Doesn't matter if you consider it Christian or Muslim, you just pray to God. And as for, if you want, or without religion, obviously, we can quit drinking. You can clean up your life either way, many different ways, if you just have a commitment to a more positive future. But in my experience, religion was important and kind of necessary. I wasn't really able to get my shit together, even to the limited extent that I have, until I had my born again Christian experience. So we'll see.
We'll see. I don't know what else to say, really. I think, what else do I want to put out there? Do you have any more questions?
Yes.
Ooh, I have one.
Hmm.
So, have you ever considered that Mecca is Saturn worship?
We're going to not get into sort of like Islam criticism or debate in this particular podcast. We've done many other podcasts where we have, so I'm not saying we can't talk about. We're not going to really get into all the, negative issues that some people might bring up with Islam, unless Babushka actually wants to. But my understanding was maybe not this podcast. It's up to you, though.
Yeah, I would like to respectfully decline that question. I am open for a debate with Islam maybe in the near future, but for right now, I'd just like to, kind of chill, I guess.
Yeah. Well, this has basically covered the ground that we wanted to cover, and thank you again for doing it. Also, you did say, I think yesterday, that you would like to debate a Christian sometime. So if nobody else wants to take that challenge, I certainly would. If you ever want to debate Christianity in another podcast, Babushka, that could be kind of fun. But I'll just leave that as an open invitation.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. Well, one last chance. Any final questions, comments from the audience?
Yep. So when you converted to Islam, was it more for the social, the social community aspect, or did you get like a divine encounter with Allah or what?
I think I had somewhat of a divine encounter, really, because at the time, like I said, was going through a lot of like traumatic events, and it was really my way of, I guess, coping with everything. And I don't know, it was like I was blind for so long, and then my eyes just finally opened, like I could see everything, and it was this magical like experience. It was beautiful, but yeah, I guess it wasn't really for like the social community around me. I guess it was just a feeling.
Sure thing. So then, why did you attribute it to Allah?
Well, because, well, I studied a lot of Islam and a lot of things about Islam, the theology, at such a young age too, which I'm like looking back and I was like, oh my God, I was so much smarter back then. What happened? But I guess I equated the divine miracle, I guess, I don't know what to call it, with Allah or just God. Yeah.
Would you mind sharing what that miracle was?
Getting out of, I guess, my dad's house, and because then I knew for sure that there was like Allah was real and everything, and I guess there was a lot of physical abuse when I was a child, and I got out of it. And when my dad was trying to beat on me, I kind of called out for Allah, like how a lot of people do, like with sleep paralysis. It was almost like that, and things just got better from there on.
So, also the discrimination that you face as a Muslim, do you think these problems still exist today?
Definitely. I definitely believe that discrimination is still happening. That was like how many years ago when I was in high school? It was in my 9th grade year. I'm 19 now, but I mean, it really wasn't that long ago. And I believe it's, that type of discrimination is still going on. But then again, I did have people stand up for me as well. One of my very good Jewish friends I have was one of the only people that stood up for me and protected me against a lot of these people who wanted to hurt me spiritually, emotionally, and physically. But I can't imagine how hard it is for a lot of these kids who are Muslims and live in these like very white, conservative, Trump supporting communities.
Yeah, I absolutely agree wholeheartedly. Now, see, another question I do have that comes up into my head. Why do you think people were so discriminate towards you? Do you think it's because they haven't seen a lot of Muslims before? Do you think it's because of their preconceived notions, or like what factors do you think lead them to discriminate against Muslims in this nature?
I think people are scared of what they don't necessarily know. Like, I know a lot of the people who discriminated against me are very uneducated with the whole religion itself. A lot of them are, a lot of their parents, teach them about this stuff. I mean, hell, my dad was literally the same way. And I think it factors with their upbringing and the media as well at the time, because the media was not very favorable of Muslims, especially after 9/11. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well,
were you
to
Muslim?
be fair, you were in the womb during 9/11, all right?
Oh, yes, I was in the womb, but after 9/11, a lot of people still had this bad stigma, and they still do. Like, they still believe that the Muslims did 9/11 and we're all guilty and this and that.
Well, George Bush said, "You're either with the terrorizers or you're with us."
Well,
Well, again, I want to thank you, Babushka. It's been really interesting. I think we covered your story, at least with Islam, really well. We can definitely continue, but I think this might be a reasonable place to wrap it up for now, and we can always do another podcast anytime you want.
yeah, definitely. I would like to get into a lot of stuff because, as I said, my life has been so crazy, and that's just not even the half of it. So I'm definitely open for another one.
Sorry, there's a lot more I could ask you about, or we could have got into, but I think, at least in terms of your experience with Islam, we got that story out today. So thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for attending the episode. We'll be doing another one tomorrow and every day, pretty much same time, different subjects. Join us on our Discord server.
Thank you very much.
On YouTube, on BitChute, Instagram, Facebook, and all that stuff, but especially on the Roundtable Discord server. Thanks, everybody. Let's jump to whatever room you guys want to use for the rest of the night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Babushka. Thanks, everybody.